Spooky Scrapbook, December 30th, 2025, 2026.
Ladies, if a predator targets you, they want one of two things. You or something you have. Let's talk about each scenario. Now, if all they want is your stuff, give it to them. I don't care what it is. Your car, your phone, the antique wedding ring that's been in your family for 5 generations. Nothing you own is worth your life. Now, if what they want is you, all the rules change, especially if they try to take you somewhere else. You're doing that because they're either going to rape you or kill you or both. And they need a safe, deserted space to do it. They want you to be quiet and submissive, so they'll promise not to hurt you if you do what they say. They're lying. So the moment they try to take you away, you're going to do 2 things. Start screaming at the top of your lungs, and start fighting like you're the 3rd monkey on the ramp to Noah's Ark, and it's starting to rain. Attack their eyes, their throat, their knees, and their groin with everything you've got. Kicks are more effective than punches, especially when your opponent is bigger and stronger than you. If you can run, run, and remember, keep screaming. They're trying not to draw attention to themselves, so your job is to make them feel anything but invisible.
You know that kid your teenager's been chatting with online? He's no kid. These days, predators don't sneak into your house at night. They slide into your children's DMs. And if you don't know what that means, you're already losing the battle for their safety. 1 in 4 kids say they've been contacted online by a stranger, and 1 in 7 report being sexually propositioned. It doesn't start with threats, it starts with compliments, and then it progresses to requests and demands for increasingly sexual behavior, like sharing nude photos. In the most extreme and dangerous cases, the predator's goal is to meet your child in person. So what do? Well, check your child's DMs. Use the privacy settings on their social media platforms to limit who can message them. Teach your kids how to report and how to block unwanted message traffic. And keep an open dialogue with them about the dangers of online grooming. Because if you don't talk to them, there are plenty of predators out there who will.
Ladies, this is a hard truth you need to hear. If a male predator gets his hands on you, you're probably going to lose that fight. So let's talk about the ABCs that can keep it from coming to that. A is for awareness, and I can't preach this enough. There is no better self-defense tool than knowing your surroundings, keeping your head on a swivel, and for crying out loud, putting that phone away. Nothing says choose me to a predator more than a distracted woman with her hands full. B is for blaring noise. Because whatever your attacker has planned, they want to do it without drawing attention to themselves. So while they're still out of arm's reach, your job is to make so much noise that everyone within earshot will now be paying attention to you and him. Air sirens fit easily in your purse and are perfect for this job. If he keeps coming, it's time for C, which is chemical defense. Now there are differing opinions about pepper spray versus pepper gel versus mace and so on. My advice is that the standoff distance is more important than the chemical itself. So choose a dispenser that shoots a screen at least 12 to 15 feet. Remember, the objective here is to keep the attacker as far away from you as possible. And yes, I know there is a 4th option, let's call it option G, and there's a time and a place for that discussion as well. But not everybody feels comfortable carrying a gun, and some states and municipalities make it difficult, if not illegal. So for now, make sure the women in your life know their ABCs.
What's the number one most dangerous place for a woman? Sadly, it's her own home. What's number two? You're looking at it. In 2022, nearly 15% of all robberies took place at gas stations. Predators love them because they know you have to get out of your car and they know your attention is going to be diverted while you're pumping gas. Add it all up, this is prime hunting ground for thieves, carjackers, and rapists. So what can you do? Well, avoid seedy rundown joints off the beaten path, especially at night. Choose a pump closest to the store entrance. Keep your doors locked until you're ready to fuel up. Before you get out, scan the area for anyone suspicious, like men who are hanging out and not pumping gas. If it doesn't look right, trust your instincts and drive away. If you do gas up, have your keys on you, put your phone away, and keep your purse and other valuables out of sight. Personal defense tool like pepper spray is a real bonus here. While the pump is running, keep your head on a swivel and don't be afraid to get loud and assertive with anyone who gets in your space. And one more thing, never let your tank get so close to empty that you have to stop at the first gas station you see.
Here are 3 rock-solid reasons these home DNA test kits are the worst Christmas gifts ever. Reason number 1, you're not just surrendering your biological identity to a for-profit corporation, you're giving them half your family's genetic data without their consent. And once you hand it over, you can never get it back. There's no delete button when it comes to DNA. Reason number 2, those promises about privacy and how they'll never sell your data? Worthless. 23andMe suffered a major data breach just 2 years ago. Ancestry.com has had 3 owners over their short history, and with each acquisition comes a change in privacy policy, data sharing practices, and revenue strategy. They maintain relationships with big pharma companies and data analytics firms. And don't fool yourself. If a foreign investor waves enough cash in their face, all that information is as good as sold. Reason number 3 is the most concerning of all, and that's the misuse of this galaxy of data. Whether it's an insurance company denying you medical coverage, or a potential employer trashing your job application, or a hostile nation developing biological weapons that target specific ethnicities. Think I'm being paranoid? Well, did you ever think Terminator would start to look more like a documentary than a sci-fi movie? Look, if your idea of a Merry Christmas is spitting in a tube and finding out your dad isn't your dad, knock yourself out. But at least know what you're getting yourself and your loved ones into. If you're my Secret Santa, I'm okay with a tie or some McDonald's gift certificates.
Oh, crap. Now what? Take this 5-question quiz to see if you can keep a simple traffic stop from turning into a night in jail. Question 1, true or false? The police can make you roll your window all the way down. It's true. In 1977, Pennsylvania versus Mims gave officers wide authority when it comes to their safety, and that includes being able to clearly see and hear what's going on inside your car. Question 2. During a stop, the officer orders you to step out of your car. Can he do that without reasonable suspicion? Yes, he can, and this is still covered under the broad officer safety authority issued under Mims. In Maryland versus Wilson in 1997, the courts extended that authority to include passengers as well. Question 3. You refuse to sign a ticket for a misdemeanor speeding charge. Can the officer arrest you? The answer here is almost certainly yes. In the vast majority of jurisdictions, signing a ticket is a promise to appear, not an admission of guilt. And in Atwater versus City of Lago Vista in 2001, the courts ruled police can arrest a motorist for even a minor offense committed in their presence. So sign the ticket. Question 4. With no reasonable suspicion to do so, a police officer asks for consent to search your car. You refuse. He says, "Okay, wait right here while I get a drug dog."
Is this legal? No. 2015's Rodriguez versus United States makes it clear a stop may not be prolonged, even briefly, to conduct a dog sniff unless police have separate, reasonable suspicion. Final question. The officer asks where you're going and where you're coming from. You decline to answer. He says, if you want to be difficult, we can stay here all day until you answer my questions. Is that legal? Absolutely not. In 1983, the courts ruled in Florida versus Royer that a person's refusal to answer questions cannot, by itself, furnish reasonable suspicion or justify continued detention. If you think a 15-year-old is fair game for a bunch of rich old men, you're part of the problem. Let me say that slower for anyone who still doesn't get it. 15 is a child, period. Full stop. I spent over 30 years in law enforcement, and in every jurisdiction I served, we had a term for 15-year-olds, minors. I don't care if some washed-up relic from the cable news era / one-woman outrage factory says otherwise. I don't care if an entire news organization joins in on the gaslighting. 15-year-olds are not women. They are legally, biologically, and morally children. And if you're shaking your head no right now, you're a shitty excuse for a human being, and you need to stay the hell away from our kids.
Think you know your rights? Try this Fourth Amendment quiz. Remember, it gets harder as we go along. Question 1, true or false? The police always need a warrant to search your car. That's false. From the automobile exception established 100 years ago in Carroll versus United States, to the inventory exception to a search incident to a lawful arrest, it's almost as though the Fourth Amendment doesn't apply to your car at all. Question 2, the police come to your house and say they're looking for an escaped felon, who they believe is hiding inside. They ask for consent to search your home and you let them in. Next thing you know, they're going through your kitchen cabinets and your dresser drawers. Can you make them stop? Yes, you can, and for 2 reasons. First, in 1986, U.S. versus Biley established that consent can be withdrawn at any time. Then in 2001, the Supreme Court added some muscle to that decision in Florida versus Imeno. The justices said a consent search is limited to the scope of permission given, so looking for a human being in an underwear drawer is clearly illegal. Question 3, the police have a search warrant for your neighbor's house, but due to a typo in the paperwork, they hit your house instead. Before they realize their mistake, they find 38 pounds of meth stashed under your kitchen sink. Will the seizure hold up in court? The answer is probably. We're dealing with several landmark cases here, the first of which was Mapp versus Ohio in 1961, requiring states to exclude evidence obtained without a warrant. But in 1984, the case of United States versus Leon allowed for an exception based on good faith reliance on a search warrant, meaning the police acted reasonably given the information they had at the time. And in Maryland versus Garrison in 1987, justices upheld that exception specifically for a wrong address scenario. Question 4, what do we call the exception that allows an officer to seize evidence without a warrant based on that evidence being clearly visible? This is the plain view doctrine, and it was established in 1971 by Coolidge versus New Hampshire, when justices agreed that if an officer is lawfully present and evidence is sitting in front of him, he's not obligated to turn the other way. So put that pile of baby seal pelts away before you roll the window down. Last question. A narcotics task force discovers the grow operation in your attic by using military-grade AI-driven thermal imaging technology. They then get a search warrant and seize over 1,000 plants. Will the warrant hold up in court? No. In a 2001 case, Kylo versus the United States, justices held that any intrusion into a private area using technology not available to the public was in itself a search and requires a warrant beforehand. So you're not getting your weed back, but you're not going to jail either.
Think you know your rights? Try this quiz, and fair warning, it gets harder as we go along. Question 1. You've been arrested for bank robbery. The police try to question you in jail, and you invoke your right to remain silent. Can they try again later? Yes, they can. In Michigan versus Mosley, the Supreme Court said that after a reasonable period of time, the police can re-engage to see if you've changed your mind. Question 2. Same situation, but in addition to invoking your right to remain silent, you said you wanted a lawyer. Can the police still try to question you later? The answer here is no. And the case this time is Edwards versus Arizona, where the court found that only the defendant can reinitiate contact after asking for a lawyer. Question 3. You're arrested for DUI, and during the booking, the police read you your Miranda rights. You ask for a lawyer. Later, during a search of your impounded car, they find a gun tied to an unsolved murder. Can they talk to you about that crime as long as they don't bring up the DUI? The answer is no. The case law this time is Arizona versus Roberson. The court found that your right to an attorney while in custody applies to any and all offenses, not just the original one. Final question. The police stop you for speeding. The officer is super cool and lets you off with a warning. You're clearly not in custody, but before you drive away, he says, "We had a report of a car identical to yours leaving the scene of the burglary. Would you like to talk to me about that?" You just stare at the officer and don't say a word. Moments later, you are arrested for that burglary. Can your silence be used as evidence of your guilt? Believe it or not, yes it can. In Salinas versus Texas, the Supreme Court said the Fifth Amendment does not protect pre-custodial silence unless it is affirmatively invoked. In other words, you have to say, "I'm invoking my right to remain silent," or something similar. Not gonna lie, I was surprised by this one myself. Here are the top 3 trick questions a cop might ask during a traffic stop and how you should answer. Question 1.
Where are you headed today?
Or,
Where are you coming from?
this one's iffy. He's hoping you'll say, "I'm coming from a Super Bowl party," or something similar, so he can develop enough reasonable suspicion to hook you up for a DUI. The safe bet is, I'd rather not answer that. But if you're leaving church or your shift as a volunteer at the Children's Hospital and you think that may work in your favor, that's your call. Question 2.
Do you know why I stopped you?
He knows why he stopped you, but he's hoping you'll provide more bait for his little fishing trip. So listen carefully. I don't care if you were doing 80 in a school zone on 4 bald tires with a dead hooker hanging out your trunk. The answer here is a simple no. And question 3.
Would you mind if I just took a quick look around inside your car?
Same fishing trip, but now he just wants to see how stupid you are. You're not, so the answer is I do not give you permission to search my person or my vehicle. Bottom line, be polite but firm and never forget this was an adversarial situation the moment you saw those lights in your rear view.
You know, it takes just one lousy driver to ruin your day. And without a dash cam, it's your word against theirs. Generally speaking, these ass clowns fall into 3 categories. First, there's just your average clueless driver, usually on their phone or trying to eat their Big Mac without spilling any of the secret sauce in their lap. Whatever the case, you better believe they're not going to admit to anything when the cops get there. Next, there are the ragers, using their vehicle as a weapon or jumping out and screaming at you, or maybe just changing drivers in the weirdest way possible. Good luck getting these people to take responsibility for anything. And finally, we have the deliberate fraudsters. They'll brake check you, and if that doesn't work, they'll actually back into you and get out of their car holding their necks. They probably have a shady chiropractor on retainer. And did I mention it's your word against theirs? Folks, I'm not here to hawk any particular dash cam, just to remind you. When the insurance company asks, you have proof. Will you? or false? If the police accuse you of committing a crime and you know you haven't done anything wrong, there's no harm in talking to them. Well, to paraphrase one of my favorite comedians, we all have the right to remain silent. Some of us just don't have the ability. And if you ever find yourself on the wrong side of the law, here's a thought.
You could shut the fuck up.
Thanks, Dave. You know, Officer Friendly isn't there to help you, and you're not going to clear everything up with a 5-minute chat. What you are going to do is give him enough information to catch you in a lie, and then it's game on. Trust me, you're not talking your way out of this in the back of a police car or an interrogation room. So politely decline the offer to clear your good name and go get yourself an attorney. You ever feel like someone's following you? You may not be as paranoid as you think. These days, all it takes is an iPhone and a pack of AirTags from a stalker to know where you are 24/7. It's so easy for someone to slip one into your purse or your backpack, and it's even easier to put one on your car, where you'll probably never find it unless you're looking for it. So what can you do to protect yourself? Well, the good news is both Apple and Android are aware of the problem, and they've built safety mechanisms into their phones to help. On an iPhone, you need to have Bluetooth, location services, and tracking notifications turned on. If an unregistered AirTag is found moving with you, you'll get an alert on your phone that you can acknowledge. This will take you into the Find My function, and it'll show you on a map exactly where the AirTag is located. You can then tap Play Sound to make it beep, and you can also disable it immediately if you don't know who owns the AirTag. If you have an Android, you can just download the Tracker Detect app from Google Play Store. It works about the same as the Apple version by alerting you to the presence of unknown tags that are moving with you. Android models 6 and higher have a built-in alert system for unknown trackers. A lot of people ask me what they should carry for personal defense. A gun, an impact weapon, chemical spray, and they're usually surprised when I tell them none of those are the most effective defense against a predator. What is? Situational awareness. Knowing your surroundings, identifying threats, and having a plan to counter those threats when they arise. You're at your most vulnerable when you aren't paying attention to what's going on around you. And nothing steals your attention like being glued to your phone. We've all seen those phone zombies walking up and down the street, oblivious to what's going on around them, bumping into other people and wandering into traffic. How easy would it be to disable them before they had a chance to react? Criminals know this, and they're looking for easy marks who won't put up a fight. So if you really want to get into self-defense, start by putting your phone in your pocket and your head on a swivel when you're out in public. Should women carry a gun for personal protection? Absolutely, as long as you can answer yes to these 3 questions. Have you been trained? Not just one time on the basics, but regular recurring training, including malfunction drills, weapons retention, and shooting on the move. Do you know the law to include concealed carry and deadly force criteria for your state? Finally, are you willing to take a life if necessary to protect yourself? Because the moment you pull out your gun and point it at someone, that's what you're about to do. Look, guns aren't for everyone, but if you make the decision to carry, do it safely and responsibly. Oh, and everything I just said, it goes for us guys too.
Life's better with wind chimes on your porch.